I am having a quick discussion with Marley Skuman from Jeffreys Bay Wind Farm, and we're talking today about the Black Harrier Raptors initiative that they've started to conserve the Black Harrier Raptors in the Eastern Cape of Southern Africa. Um, Now, Marley, I'm not a specialist, and I'm definitely not very well read on raptors and the cases for wind farms, but it is something that has been made hugely public internationally, especially with the people that try and stop green energy and try and make a case for um, I would say previous energy generation types, like for example coal-fired power stations, etc. So so you have a lot of people out there who try um, and make a case for not having wind farms, specifically when it comes to um, the threat to birds and biodiversity. And your role as ESG and biodiversity manager at the wind farm obviously gives me an idea that the wind farm is taking this threat seriously. And I see a lot of the information that you guys send through with the work that you are doing for the black harriers to try and protect the species. Tell me, can you maybe just give us a little bit of an idea what the Black Harrier project is and what you guys are currently doing to protect this species and its endangered status etc. Or is a threatened species that you find in the area of your wind farm?
Absolutely. I'll start with giving a tiny bit of background of how this came to be. So the wind farm environmental impact assessment was done in 2012, and during that phase, the black harrier was not considered or predicted to be a risk. The wind farm was not predicted to be a risk to the black harrier, and the reason for that is that at that time it was known, the knowledge of that time was that this is a low flying bird and they wouldn't reach the rotor swept area. When the operation started in 2014, we started seeing one or two fatalities for the black harrier. And this is where we got some specialists involved, especially Rob Simmons started doing some raptor studies on the wind farm. And due to this kind of studies that we did, we realized that this bird is not only a low flying bird. During the breeding season, they do displays up in the air, to attract the partner. And that's really when they were being hit by the turbine blades. And another thing that was discovered was also during breeding season, when they come back after foraging with food, they fly higher. And so this was never known about the black harrier, which is why it was not considered an issue at the time of the authorization being awarded. So when we realized it is in fact a problem, especially because this is an endangered bird and there are less than 1,200 adult breeding birds remaining, the wind farm committed to putting mitigation in place and additionally also putting offsets in place. So the offsets that we are trying to implement is with the goal to achieve ultimately a net gain in the population. So there's two parts of the project. It is the mitigation part on site and then the offsets off site. So I can elaborate a bit on what are the mitigations, if that's useful. All right. So on site specifically.
I think maybe before we just discuss the mitigations, I think it's important that we just understand um, the size of the issue. Just to get an idea. I know it's very difficult to be very specific on how many birds are affected, but what is the effect on the population of the wind farm?
So, since we started operations, we've found an average or approximately one carcass every 2 years. So, from 2014 to current, that's kind of the average. The wind industry as a whole does have an effect on the black harrier, and if the wind farms that are affecting these birds don't put mitigation in place, the extinction date of this bird will be, now I'm losing my, sorry, will,
We brought earlier or
yeah,
now?
yeah. So the
Okay.
extinction date of these birds will be 75 years sooner than originally predicted, if the wind farms that affect these birds don't mitigate.
Okay, so it is a serious case that you are taking very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's low numbers, but because it's such a endangered bird with low numbers in the population, it is a serious issue.
Yeah. And then so sorry, I interrupted you, but you were starting to talk about the mitigation on site. Yeah.
Yeah, so what we've already started implementing is observer-led shutdown on demand. We've trialed this for 3 years. This is the third year. What we do basically is we've identified 2 vantage points on site, and then we have observers sitting at these areas during the breeding season of the bird. So that's from about July to December.
Okay.
And the observers are ultimately they're watching the skies every day, every weekend. And what they do is, as soon as they see a bird flying towards one of the turbines, they radio or contact on WhatsApp our operating center, like our control room, and they will say, right, turbine 7 has Harrier on the way, please switch it off. And it's switched off immediately and only switched back on once they give the go ahead that the bird has passed. So that's one of the measures that we've been trying. It very much relies on humans, right? So we have to have landowner consent. We need to make sure that the observers are well trained in identification. We need to make sure they don't get bored sitting there watching the skies the whole day. So there's a lot of human interaction that needs to kind of work before this process works well. Another one that we're investigating very seriously is blade painting. So blade painting is where you paint one of the blades on the turbine a different color, and that is to create contrast when the birds see what has been coined as smear motion. So when the turbine, the blades turn and the birds just see kind of a blur. So the idea is that that blur is kind of interrupted with this solid different color that they can see turning. So this has been trialed in Norway very successfully. For the target species, it was a specific kind of eagle that they were targeting, and it reduced their fatalities with 100% for this specific
Wow.
species. And all birds' fatalities were reduced by 70%. So
Oh,
in this
wow.
specific case study, it was very successful. It has never been tested in South Africa. One wind farm has started implementing it, and they're currently doing their first year of studies. And Jeffreys Bay Wind Farm we have a goal to kind of join their study. We want to also make the sample size bigger because, otherwise it's going to take 7 years to see if it actually it is effective in Southern Africa. And then another one that we're looking at is automated systems. So automated systems basically include any kind of camera system that's linked to machine learning through AI. and it regulates the turbine, or it emits a noise like a deterrent. So it's either kind of an alarm or it shuts down the turbine. And this is also something that hasn't been proven or peer reviewed in the Southern African context, but we hope to kind of trial it and see if it works. I'm losing you slightly, so I'm just gonna give it a
Yeah, no,
second.
it's working. Don't worry. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's every now and then I just see a little bit of a buzz there, but I think we've got the gist of that. I think that's that's major lengths that you're going through to try and look after this bird. I think to me, from what it sounds like, and certainly from reading what I've seen that you guys are doing. You mentioned. Uh, I think the one thing I just want to ask a question, and I think it's important that the research. I know you are sponsoring the research, and the research is the way to help mitigate this. But if it's already been proven in Norway that the blade painting is working, why can we not just start the blade painting here? Why do we need to research it first? Or I think you did mention that you are wanting to start
Yeah,
implementing this
that's a
as
good
a
question.
yeah.
So I just want to quickly correct your wording there. We're not sponsoring the research. We did sponsor trackers to be installed on 4 birds, but the research is completely independent of us. We're just providing all our monitoring data. So we've been doing
Okay.
carcass monitoring on site since operations began, and we've made that research kind of the results public to academicists, the academici,
Academia or yeah.
academics.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the research is being done. It's completely separate from what we are doing. We just
Okay.
get their results.
Okay.
Sorry, and then you had a different question as well that
Yeah.
I.
So I just wanted to just understand that if we already know that the blade
Oh,
painting
yes, the
has
black
worked,
painting.
but obviously we need to prove it for these birds. But I think it's important enough of a case to paint the blades first, and then do the research and see.
Well, you'll be surprised what the main stumbling block is, and that is our Civil Aviation Authority's current regulations. So they require
Oh,
the turbines to be painted uh, white, and specifically the blades as well. And so there's no allowance in their regulations for one blade to be painted a different color. We are currently applying for exemption, and this one wind farm that has started implementing already, they received exemption. I'm sorry, I need to
oh,
cough. My apologies.
hmm.
So that's kind of only the stumbling block we have. And then when it comes to operational wind farms, it's a bit different because it's easy to install once or kind of paint the blades if the turbines aren't up in the air yet. But when they're operational, it's a different story, right? You need to shut down those turbines for at least 8 hours. You can't only paint one blade. You need to, because of the weight imbalance that will cause just a tiny, tiny bit up with that speed will make a big difference in the functionality of the turbine. So it means we have to also paint the other blades with a white color, kind of give it another layer so that the weight balance stays the same. And I mean, this is just on one turbine. So it's a
Wow.
big endeavor to go and implement this on an operational wind farm.
Sure. Yeah, no, it definitely does sound like it. Well, thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to publishing the article and thank you very much for taking this time and trying and explaining to us how it works. I think to me it's a fascinating case. Like I say, it's often the excuse that is used when we're looking at greener technology and greener energy production, and it's definitely uh, to me, as a conservationist, environmentalist, and a person mainly focused on biodiversity, it's definitely heartwarming to see that amount of effort that goes into preserving biodiversity and preserving this important species. So, no, thank you very much for taking the time, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Marley.
Thank you. And before you just stop it, I just want to also give some credit to all the other players in the industry. I mean, I mentioned now the CAA with their regulations, and we have been engaging with them directly, and absolutely acknowledged that this is an issue, and we kind of been working together. And then at the same time, BirdLife SA is constantly supporting us. So we are the South African Wind Industry Association. They're also involved. So it's not like Jeffreys Bay is kind of on their own just doing this. We've been supported very, very well with all the specialists in the industries involved. And thank
Fantastic.
you.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much.